Welcome to All Must See. Today, we're diving into a movie you absolutely cannot miss, How to Make a Killing, 2026. At the start of the movie, we find ourselves inside the cold, concrete walls of a maximum security prison. The tension quickly rises as we are introduced to our main character, Beckett Redfellow. Dressed in a bleak prison uniform, Beckett is sitting in his cell, exactly 4 hours away from his scheduled execution. He is soon visited by a prison chaplain, Father Morris, who sits down to offer final rites and listen to the condemned man's last confession. But Beckett isn't looking for forgiveness. Looking the priest dead in the eye, he explains that the official story the FBI put together is completely wrong. With a calm, almost arrogant smirk, Beckett reveals that the true story of how he ended up on death row is far more impressive, calculated, and brilliant than anyone could ever imagine. To explain his master plan, Beckett takes the priest and us back to the very beginning. We learn the heartbreaking backstory of his mother, Mary Redfellow. Mary was the young, beautiful daughter of the ruthless and obscenely wealthy billionaire, Whitelaw Redfellow. But when Mary fell in love with a struggling, random musician and ended up pregnant out of wedlock, the arrogant Redfellow family demanded she get a family-sanctioned abortion. Refusing to give up her child, Mary was brutally disowned by Whitelaw, cut off from the family's massive $28 billion fortune, and banished to live in the downscale, gritty suburbs of New Jersey. Throughout Beckett's childhood, Mary raised him in complete poverty, yet she never let him forget his royal bloodline. She schooled him in the manners of high society, constantly reminding him of the boundless entitlement and luxury that was rightfully his. But tragedy struck when Mary fell terminally ill. Despite her desperate pleas, not a single member of the billionaire Redfellow family came to her aid or offered a dime for her medical care. On her deathbed, a frail Mary pulled a young Beckett close and planted a seed of ultimate vengeance in his mind, telling him to promise her that he wouldn't quit until he had the right kind of life. Soon after, Mary passed away, and a heartbroken Beckett was unceremoniously tossed into the foster care system, entirely forgotten by his disgustingly rich relatives. Fast forward to his adult life, and things haven't exactly gone as planned. Beckett is a brilliant but completely overlooked blue-collar worker, trapped in a miserable, humiliating job selling menswear in the basement of a bespoke luxury clothier. Day in and day out, he is forced to serve arrogant, wealthy elites who treat him like absolute garbage, never realizing that he is actually the rightful heir to one of the biggest fortunes in the world. Beckett is deeply bitter, watching the very people who destroyed his mother's life flaunt their billions while he struggles to make ends meet. Meanwhile, fate steps in when Beckett unexpectedly crosses paths with Julia Steinway. Julia is Beckett's childhood sweetheart and former crush, but she has grown up into a ruthless, fiercely ambitious social climber who only values power and money. When they reconnect, Beckett tries to impress her by confessing his ultimate secret. He is technically in the bloodline for the massive $28 billion Redfellow estate, but Julia is far from impressed. She knows the rules of inheritance and mockingly points out the brutal truth. Beckett is eighth in line. There are 7 healthy, wealthy, and highly protected Redfellow cousins standing directly between him and the money. Seeing him as nothing more than a broke retail worker, Julia flirts with him but coldly brushes him off, sarcastically quipping that he should let her know when he kills them all. He is stunned to realize that she is absolutely right. The only way to take back his stolen life and avenge his mother's tragic death is to systematically eliminate every single relative standing in his way. Beckett's demeanor completely shifts. The underdog retail worker dies, and a cold, calculating mastermind is born. He heads home and obsessively maps out his twisted family tree, identifying his first target, his arrogant, highly privileged relative, Taylor Redfellow. Without hesitation, Beckett sets his sights on Taylor, using his underestimated status as a nobody to observe his target's wealthy lifestyle undetected. Beckett realizes that because his family completely erased him from their lives, they have no idea what he looks like, making him the ultimate hidden threat. Carefully orchestrating a scenario where he can strike without leaving a trace, Beckett executes his very first murder. While taking another human life leaves him momentarily shaken, the sheer rush of power and the realization that he is now one step closer to a $28 billion empire quickly washes away his guilt. He gets over his nerves, fully embracing his dark new path. The game has officially begun, and Beckett is ready to show his arrogant family exactly what happens when you cross the wrong underdog. Emboldened by the intoxicating thrill of the kill, the taste of blood changes him entirely. He realizes that taking down his billionaire relatives isn't just about reclaiming his stolen inheritance. It's about putting these arrogant people in their place and proving his hidden genius. Soon after his first successful murder, Beckett locks his sights on his next target, his cousin Noah Redfellow. Noah is an insufferable, pretentious Nepo baby masquerading as a struggling indie artist, completely oblivious to his own extreme privilege. Beckett seamlessly infiltrates Noah's avant-garde social circle, manipulating the artist's massive ego to set up a flawlessly calculated accident that wipes the smug air off the family tree. But in the process of tracking Noah, Beckett crosses paths with Noah's beautiful girlfriend, Ruth. Seeing a golden opportunity to further entrench himself into the family's inner circle, Beckett turns on the charm. He plays the sympathetic outsider, consoling the grieving Ruth, and the two quickly spark a passionate romance. Meanwhile, the Redfellow bloodline continues to thin as Beckett systematically hunts down the rest of the heirs. Without hesitation, he goes after his cousin Stephen, a gimmicky, hypocritical preacher who uses his family's billions to fund a flashy lifestyle. Beckett uses the preacher's own grandstanding arrogance against him, orchestrating a delightfully ironic and brutal demise. The tension quickly rises as Beckett continues his darkly comic campaign of vengeance, effortlessly outsmarting and taking out his snobby aunt Cassandra and his elitist uncle MacArthur. With every calculated strike, he revels in the fact that the invisible underdog they discarded at birth is actually the lethal mastermind orchestrating their downfall. Later, knowing he needs a legitimate, legal way to integrate into the Redfellow empire so the money actually flows to him, Beckett approaches his uncle Warren Redfellow. Unlike the rest of the Vile family, Warren is surprisingly kind-hearted and runs the highly lucrative Redfellow investments, taking pity on the estranged nephew he never knew. Warren offers Beckett an entry-level job. This is the ultimate Trojan horse. Beckett uses his sharp intellect to rapidly climb the corporate ladder, proving himself as a financial prodigy, gaining his uncle's absolute trust, and securing his proximity to the family fortune. However, the margin for error shrinks drastically when the FBI begins to notice the suspiciously high mortality rate of the Redfellow family. Agents Brad Matthews and Megan Pinfield launch a full-scale investigation into the string of bizarre accidents. Beckett is forced to stay one step ahead, narrowly escaping their detection while maintaining his innocent blue-collar facade. Fast forward to Beckett, living a highly dangerous double life. He is thriving at Redfellow Investments, planning his engagement to Ruth, and expertly dodging the FBI. But his biggest headache remains his childhood crush, Julia Steinway. Julia is now married to a wealthy man named Lyle, but she is fiercely greedy and far from faithful. Watching Beckett rapidly rise from a basement retail worker to a prominent, wealthy figure in the Redfellow family, Julia's ambition takes over. She flirts dangerously with him. Loving the power dynamics at play, he is stunned to realize that Julia is just as twisted as he is, as she playfully hints that she knows exactly what he's been up to. Then, fate hands Beckett a wild card. The one relative Beckett genuinely liked and couldn't bring himself to murder was his benevolent uncle Warren. But in a shocking twist, Warren suffers a sudden, fatal medical emergency and dies in the hospital. Beckett stands among the grieving family, trying to mask his sinister smirk. He didn't even have to lift a finger, yet the universe has cleared his path. With Warren dead, the massive family tree has been entirely pruned. There is only one person left standing between Beckett and the $28 billion empire, the man who started it all, his ruthless, cold-blooded grandfather. Whitelaw, Redfellow, Whitelaw finally acknowledges Beckett's existence and formally invites him to his heavily guarded mansion for a private, high-stakes meeting. This dinner perfectly coincides with the evening of Beckett's engagement celebration with Ruth. The stage is set. Beckett knows he has to walk into the lion's den and eliminate the ultimate arrogant billionaire to claim his birthright. But just as Beckett prepares for the grand finale, Julia drops a massive bombshell. She reveals that she had a private investigator tailing him and has hard evidence tying him to the murders. She demands a massive cut of the fortune, threatening to ruin his entire master plan and send him straight to the electric chair. Beckett is backed into a dangerous corner, his carefully constructed house of cards trembling on the edge of total collapse. Julia blackmails him, demanding a payout of $300,000 to be delivered to her cowardly, broke husband, Lyle. She gives Beckett exactly 30 minutes, or else she will expose his dark secrets to his sweet fiancée, Ruth. He is stunned to realize that his perfect plan is unraveling, but he has no choice. Without hesitation, Beckett abandons his own engagement party and races to Lyle's office. When he bursts through the door, he finds Lyle sitting at his desk, a pathetic, weeping mess. Beckett aggressively slams the check down on the desk. The tension quickly rises as Beckett's frustration boils over. In a moment of pure rage, he snatches a sharp silver letter opener off the desk and points it directly at Lyle's throat, verbally destroying the man for being a weak, pathetic parasite. But Beckett regains his composure. He doesn't kill him. Instead, he tosses the letter opener back onto the desk, leaving his fingerprints all over the silver handle, and walks out the door, leaving Lyle sobbing on the floor. Soon after, Beckett heads straight for the lion's den. He drives up to the imposing Gothic gates of the heavily guarded Redfellow estate to answer his grandfather's summons. After being patted down by security, Beckett is led into a massive, dimly lit dining hall. Sitting at the head of a sprawling, polished table is the ultimate arrogant billionaire, Whitelaw Redfellow. Beckett braces himself for an immediate confrontation, but instead, Whitelaw starts to laugh. The old man reveals a shocking truth. He knows exactly what Beckett has been doing. He knows Beckett has been systematically slaughtering his spoiled cousins. But instead of being furious, Whitelaw is incredibly impressed. He tells Beckett that the rest of the family were entitled weak parasites, and that Beckett's ruthless, calculating ambition is the true Redfellow spirit. It's exactly how Whitelaw built his $28 billion empire in the first place. Reaching under the table, Whitelaw pulls out a heavy, antique World War I trench gun and slides it across the table. He presents Beckett with a final test. To officially inherit the empire and prove he is a true Redfellow, Beckett must pick up the gun and shoot his grandfather in cold blood. He is stunned to realize just how twisted his bloodline truly is. But Beckett hesitates. He realizes he doesn't want to murder the one man in his family who actually respects his hidden genius. He refuses to pull the trigger. Enraged and bitterly disappointed, Whitelaw snarls that Beckett is just as weak as his mother. Suddenly, the old man lunges across the table to kill Beckett himself. A brutal, chaotic struggle ensues. The two men violently grapple for control of the trench gun. In a frantic moment of pure survival, Beckett manages to overpower his grandfather. The gun goes off, and Whitelaw falls dead. Beckett has killed the titan of industry, not in cold blood, but in pure self-defense. Fast forward to a few weeks later. The dust has settled, and Beckett is officially the sole inheritor of the Redfellow Empire. He is hosting a massive, lavish celebratory party at the mansion, dressed in a tailored tuxedo and sipping champagne. The underdog has finally put the arrogant elites in their place, reclaiming his stolen life. But just as he is soaking in his ultimate victory, FBI agents Brad Matthews and Megan Pinfield storm through the grand front doors. The music abruptly stops. They march right up to Beckett and slap heavy iron handcuffs on his wrists. Beckett's heart drops, assuming they finally found the evidence for the 7 family murders, but in a massive twist, they loudly announce that he is under arrest for the murder of Lyle. The FBI explains that Lyle was found brutally stabbed to death in his office. The murder weapon, the silver letter opener covered in Beckett's fingerprints. Worse yet, Julia has given a damning false testimony to the police, claiming Beckett was obsessed with her and murdered her husband in a fit of jealous rage. Despite committing 7 absolutely perfect, untraceable murders, Beckett is dragged into court and convicted for the one murder he didn't actually commit. The judge bangs his gavel and sentences him to death. This shocking turn of events brings the story full circle, right back to the start of the movie. We are back in the cold, concrete, maximum security prison, exactly 4 hours away from the electric chair, as Beckett finishes telling this insane story to the prison chaplain. But wait, there is one final mind-blowing twist. We jump back exactly 24 hours before his scheduled execution. Beckett is sitting in the prison visitor's room when Julia walks in, looking like $1 million. They speak through the glass partition.